Welcome to the Plato Paradigm, a paradigm shift in reading Plato's dialogues. Episode 215, Lysis 209d to 210a. Socrates and Lysis appear to agree to a very strange premise that the moment Lysis is good at a technai, other people who perform that technai should entrust that technai to him. This actually stems from the question Socrates asked earlier when it came to technai where Lysis was already competent. Lysis is competent at reading and writing, but Socrates didn't simply ask whether he was competent at reading and writing, but since the conversation had been about restrictions in technai where he is not competent, he's restricted. In the case of reading and writing, Socrates asked whether his parents entrusted him first among all the members of the household to read for them and to write for them. Socrates continues the interrogation as if that is the rule, that the moment Lysis is competent at a technai, he should be entrusted with it, whatever the technai may be. Lysis may just be following the logic without thinking of the reality, but when he reads or writes for his parents, this doesn't mean that they give up reading and writing for themselves. It's not that they entrust entirely the technai to him. They simply allow him to exercise his technai in a beneficial way. Socrates has engineered a scenario whereby Lysis, in fields where he is incompetent, is ruled by slaves and hired professionals, while in technai where he is competent, he apparently can do what he wants. And it's really Socrates' fault for interpreting the restrictions and permissions regarding various technai as forms of slavery or mastery. When formulated in these terms, it would sound attractive to Lysis to have less capable people entrust him with their possessions, their family, their household, as if he would do a better job than they are doing. And Socrates goes through a series of people, beginning with his father. No doubt his father will give him all of his household to manage the moment he thinks Lysis can do it better than he can. And then Socrates goes on to the neighbor, and then all Athenians, and then even the great king himself. He's the king of the Persian Empire. Lysis has agreed to his father entrusting him with all of his possessions, the neighbor entrusting him with all of his possessions, and the Athenians with the entire polis, if Lysis is better than they are. Or rather, if they think he is better than they are. It doesn't really matter. The idea is that Lysis appears to accept the notion that to be free, he needs to be entrusted with technai. Socrates had reached the great king, but hadn't said anything about him yet, so we don't hear Lysis reacting to the idea that he should run the Persian Empire as well in order to be free. It's time to hear what Socrates does ask about the king of Persia. Potoronto presputato hue hu hetes asias arche gignetai Malon an epitrepseien hepsomenon creon, hotian bouletai embelen eston zomon, heimin, afikomenoi par ekenon endexaimetha auto hotihemes kallion phronumen ho hyos autou periopsu skiosias. Would he entrust to his oldest son, who has the rule of Asia? This is Asia Minor, most of today's Turkey. So would the king entrust to his oldest son, if meats are being boiled, to throw into the stew whatever he wants? Or would he entrust to us, if we came to him and showed him that we are more capable than his son concerning the preparation of a dish? Socrates has slightly changed the formula of being more capable. This time, instead of beltion, which is better, he's used kalion, which can also be interpreted as better, but it is more of the aesthetic type. It looks better, more finely, more beautifully. The logic of the argument would require Lysis to agree that the king would, since the whole idea is that one should be entrusted with a technai if one is better at it than the other person. The king of Persia is evidently already not that good at putting things into a soup or a stew, and he's already entrusted it to his son. But now he would entrust it to Socrates and Lysis if they happen to be better than his son. It doesn't occur to Lysis that despite the conversation being about the king of Persia and his son, who are both very powerful people, we're talking about making a stew. And Lysis here is accepting the idea that he should be entrusted with being a slave or a hired cook. Given the absurdity of the question, it would seem that Socrates would have liked Lysis to object, or to realize that being entrusted with a technai is not necessarily a good thing. Just how free would Lysis be if he spent his time making food for the king of Persia? This is the response Lysis actually gives. Heimin delon hoti efe. To us, it's clear, he said. Socrates will just have to try harder. Kaiton men geudans mikron ease en embalen hemas de kan buloimeth draxamenoiton halon eoean embalen. Oscar u. And he wouldn't allow him to throw in even a little. But us, even if we wanted to grab handfuls of salt and throw them in, he would allow it. Yes, he would. Why not? Lysis has shown by his answer that he doesn't really know what it means to be entrusted with a technai. The moment the king would give Lysis, and Socrates for some reason, permission to cook for him, the king would not then interfere with the way that they cook. He, the king of Persia, would not waste his time telling them how much salt they should put into the stew. We also find that Lysis is not very competent at making a stew. And above all, he still isn't aware that freedom does not come through doing menial jobs for other people. At least that isn't the case for an aristocrat. If one chooses to cook for other people, then that is a form of freedom. But an aristocrat should not be aiming at doing menial jobs for other people. His job is to run the city and to gain power in order to help his friends and harm his enemies. This is the traditional view of what an aristocrat should do. Tid etus ophthalmus hohuos autu asthenoi, ara eoi an auton haptestai ton he autu ophthalmon, me iatron hegumenos, e koluoi an. Well then, if his son had a problem with his eyes, would he allow him to touch his own eyes, considering him not to be a doctor, or would he prevent him? He would prevent him. Hemaste ge e hypolambanoi iatricus enai, cane buloimether dia noi contes tus ophthalmus empasai tes tephras, oimai ucan koluseien hegumenos orthos phronen. Alethe leges. But were he to take us to be medical, even if we wanted to open his eyes and sprinkle them with ash, I think he wouldn't prevent it, thinking that we are rightly capable. You say true things. The adverb has changed yet again from beltion to kalion to orthos, from better to more finely or beautifully to rightly or correctly. Socrates has chosen this adverb precisely when he is suggesting something even worse than pouring salt into a stew. To sprinkle ash onto eyes was not recommended, at least in 5th century medical practice in Athens. Eyes would be treated with ointments, something wet, not something dry like ash. Even later on, for example in Galen, some 600 or 700 years later, ash could be part of a remedy, but again it would be mixed in with ointments. Once again, Lysis misses the point that he is ministering to someone else, that he is incompetent in this field. Why does he even think that he knows what Socrates is talking about? And again, once the king believes that they are doctors, he wouldn't then involve himself in their treatments. He'd just let them get on with it. Lysis still has the mentality of a 12-year-old boy.